Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, June 30th. I'm Laura Cornfield, and this is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. 4 Israelis were wounded by terrorist gunfire last night near the Jewish town of Shvut Rachel, north of Ramallah. One of the victims, a 27-year-old, underwent surgery overnight and remains in critical condition at Shaarei Tzedek Hospital in Jerusalem. Another 25-year-old victim is lightly wounded and is also being treated at Shaarei Tzedek. 2 other men are in moderate condition at Hadassah Ein Kerem Hospital with gunshot wounds to their legs. The men were driving home from a basketball game at the community of Ali when they were attacked in an ambush from a car parked along Route 60. Following the attack, the army deployed a large number of soldiers and set up checkpoints in a search for the perpetrators. This was the 6th terrorist attack incident in the past 2 weeks. Security officials believe that last night's shooting was carried out by a terror cell and not by an individual. They also say that the attack was planned in advance. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu slammed the Palestinian Authority for failing to condemn recent terrorist attacks in the West Bank. Speaking ahead of a meeting with visiting Italian Foreign Minister Paolo Gentiloni, Netanyahu said the Palestinian leadership must come out unequivocally against the attacks. The visiting Italian diplomat called for a redoubling of efforts to get the peace talks back on track.
I'll take that up, as well as a continual quest for a durable and genuine peace with our Palestinian neighbor. That obviously cannot exist with the support for terrorist attacks or the refusal to condemn the terrorist attacks that plague Israel day in and day out, and in fact, the continual incitement that encourages such terrorism. We expect a different behavior from our Palestinian neighbors, and this is something that I think is in the interest of all those who seek peace.
The way to find peace and security is, from our point of view, the traditional way of the two states solution, where the Palestinian people and the Jewish people could live in peace. And we hope that in the next month some good news could come also in this respect, and that all our efforts, all our European efforts should be concentrated on give the possible contribution to restart the process. Because, you know, Prime Minister, in this so tough situation, Syria, Iraq, Libya, Yemen, the debate on the future relation with Iran, the restarting a possible solution of the very old dispute here could be a signal of peace and stability for all the region.
Today's deadline for a nuclear agreement between world powers and Iran is about to pass without an agreement. The talks are reconvening today in Vienna, and it appears that negotiators will work beyond the deadline, with significant obstacles remaining. Sticking points include Iran's insistence that it won't allow inspectors to visit military sites, and is demanding that all economic sanctions be lifted before an agreement is signed. The world powers are holding out for a much slower schedule for rolling back sanctions that can easily be snapped back into place if Iran reneges on its commitments. French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius explained the reasons for the delay.
The question has been raised, what about the Iranians? And you know that there has been some concern about the possible military dimension. Therefore, what is the aim of the negotiation? The aim is summarized in the beginning of the text we are working on. And, quote, under no circumstances Iran will never get, nor keep or acquire any nuclear weapon, under no circumstances. It means that so far as civil nuclear energy is concerned, it's quite okay, no problem. But so far as the nuclear weapon is concerned, the answer is no. If there is an agreement, there will be a lifting of sanctions, but if the agreement is not implemented, there has to be what we call a snapback mechanism, which automatically will bring back the sanctions. Okay. And we are discussing that. We have made some progress, but still it is not the end of the process, because in particular Iranians are asking precisions about lifting of the sanction, what does it mean, how it works, and some other elements. And we, on the 5+1 side, we are asking some precision. And it's the reason why we have decided yesterday to take some more time in order to be sure of the possible answers.
The French foreign minister also spoke of the importance of renewing the peace process between Israel and the Palestinians.
The Israeli-Palestinian question is not solved, and it is very dangerous. On the one hand, there is no justice for Palestinians, and where there is no justice, there is no real peace. And on the other hand, the security of Israel is not ensured, and it's not normal. It's not fair. Today, not many people are speaking about this question, Israeli-Palestinian, but our assessment is that at any moment it can explode. And if and when it explodes, it's very, very, very problematic for the whole region and for the world, because it's a basic question. And moreover, be careful, because at a moment or another, Daesh can interfere with all that.
Minister of Energy, National Infrastructures and Water Resources, Yuval Steinitz, released details of the state's agreement with the gas exploration companies today, in which he said most of the profits will go to the state, including 70% from the Leviathan Reserve. The release of the information follows the failure of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to muster a majority in the Knesset last night to pass a procedural vote to transfer authority over the gas exploration to the government, overriding the antitrust commissioner. Netanyahu believes that when the public sees the details of the agreement and sees its advantages for the economy and for the country's security, they will influence the Knesset to support the government's proposal. The release of details followed Yisrael Beitenu leader Avigdor Lieberman's decision not to support the government in the vote, even though he approves of the gas settlement itself, leaving Netanyahu without a majority in the Knesset. Opposition MKs see the failure to pass the motion last night as a sign of trouble for the government, while coalition MKs say it's a technical blip.
First of all, it says something really worrying about the gas bill itself. It means that none of us, Knesset members or anyone else in Israel, could actually know what that gas bill means, and they expected us to vote without knowing. I'm actually proud of some members of the coalition that saw the irony and refused to take part, refused to participate. Politically, you know, this government and this coalition was formed to begin with in a very crumbling position. We don't know how much time it's going to last and in what way exactly. From the opposition, I must say that it doesn't worry us too much, because we think that Israel deserves a better government, and we hope that this government will not be able to pass many of its plans, because many of them are bad for us.
It was extreme vote yesterday, because there was 3 members of the coalition that cannot vote. Second thing, it's not a vote on the gas. It's only about authority. Who is going to deal with this? And for the safety of our nation in the future, I think it's better that it will not be one guy. All the government together will take the decision, and I don't believe this thing it's open a door to crisis now or in the future.
The security forces have begun releasing the participants of the so-called Freedom Flotilla to Gaza, who have been held since their vessel was towed into Ashdod port by the Navy last night. 4 people were freed this morning, including United Arab List Knesset member Basel Ratas and former Tunisian President Mansef Marzouki. 14 others are awaiting deportation in Ramlah's Givon prison. We get more on this report from Dennis Zinn.
The Swedish vessel Marianne was towed into Ashdod port at 10 p.m. last night, some 18 hours after it was seized by naval commandos while attempting to break the IDF blockade on the Gaza Strip. The activists on board were taken to the Givon prison in Ramle, where they are awaiting deportation. 4 were released early this morning, including Israeli Knesset member Bassel Ratas, former Tunisian President Monsef Marzouki, and a female Spanish parliament member. 14 others are still in detention. Freedom Flotilla official Rami Abdu called the Israeli intervention barbaric. Israeli Minister of Science, Technology and Space, Likud Party member Dani Danon said he would not be so lenient with criminals who break Israeli and international law.
We are sending a very clear message. We will protect Israel by all means. We saw one of the Arab MKs joining the flotilla, and we will not allow MKs to fight against Israel from within the Knesset. I will work with legal tools to prevent from MK Rates to get re-elected to the next Knesset.
However, at the end of the day, whether they arrived in Gaza or not, the main goal of the activists was to highlight what they believe are the Israeli aggressions against the people of Gaza. And here they failed as well. The IDF tactic of towing the vessel to Israel late at night under the cover of dark, not releasing video footage of the mission, and refraining from issuing spokesman's notices did the job and kept the story mostly under the radar. Dennis Zinn, IBA News.
Israel boycotted the United Nations Human Rights Council meeting in Geneva that was called to examine a report on the Gaza war issued by so-called UN investigators. According to the report findings, both Israel and Palestinian terrorist groups committed grave abuses of international humanitarian law during the Gaza conflict, and they may have committed war crimes. The Palestinian Authority last week submitted its first evidence of alleged Israeli war crimes to the International Criminal Court. The Israeli ambassador told reporters that the UN report will be used as a source of information for Israel's internal investigation of the war.
The information we gathered points to serious violations of international humanitarian law and international human rights law by Israel and by Palestinian armed groups. In some cases, these may amount to war crimes. We are concerned that impunity prevails across the board for violations of international humanitarian law and international human rights law.
A substantial number of cases have been reviewed, investigated, and closed. There are about 100 cases which are still open. This is a very war crimes, alleged war crimes are very, very serious crimes. I think it is only fair that the investigations are serious, comprehensive, before indictments are being prepared, so that the indictments will also carry with them weight and assure prosecution.
Outside the United Nations building in Geneva, hundreds of pro-Israel demonstrators from a dozen countries gathered to show their support. The World Jewish Congress organized the gathering of Jews and non-Jews, with protesters condemning the UN report as being biased against Israel. They held signs charging that Israel is unfairly singled out as an abuser of human rights when it was Hamas that started the conflict by targeting Israeli civilians with rocket fire.
The report is biased. The report is comparing the democratic state of Israel, the member of the United Nations, with Hamas, which is absolutely unacceptable. The report is not dealing with many issues of the human rights violation in the Middle East. The report is not dealing with what actually happened on the ground. The report is not dealing with attacks of thousands of rockets from Gaza Strip towards Israel. The report is definitely not balanced and absolutely biased.
Following much controversy and guarantees that it is not boycotting Israel, the giant French telecom company Orange announced today that within 2 years it will end relations with its Israeli brand licensee Partner. Partner had been expected to use the Orange name until the year 2025, but the two parties mutually agreed to disconnect earlier. According to the new arrangement, Orange is predicted to pay Partner up to 90 million euros for the early departure. Today's announcement comes 2 weeks after the French company's CEO, Stéphane Richard, was quoted at a gathering in Cairo saying that he would prefer to break off ties with partner. The remarks sparked a storm of criticism, with Richard accusing of supporting a boycott of Israel. The CEO quickly rushed to Israel to meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu and clarify his remarks, which he claimed were taken out of context. He stressed he was an avid supporter of Israel and that he would continue to invest in the country. Orange maintains the withdrawal from the Israeli market is purely business motivated and has nothing to do with a boycott of the Jewish state. Israel's defense against medium-range missiles is on the verge of being enhanced later this year when the Magic Wand anti-missile system becomes operational. The United States and Israel have launched the first course to train personnel to operate the system. We get more from IBA's Ari O'Sullivan.
The Israeli-designed and built Iron Dome and Arrow systems are to be boosted in the coming months by the Magic Wand anti-missile system. Also known as David's Sling, this system will counter both short and medium-range missiles. The Magic Wand has already gone through successful test launches, and now the U.S. and Israel Defense Establishment have inaugurated the first course for operators of the system. The Magic Wand is mainly designed to intercept accurate medium-range missiles. Hezbollah is believed to hold tens of thousands of such missiles. The Magic Wand project is a joint effort by the Israel Defense Ministry's Homa Authority and the American Missile Defense Agency. Rafael works with the U.S.-based Raytheon as the main contractors of the system. The course reportedly will take 6 months, and participants were told that there was no other system like this in the world. Ari O'Sullivan for IBA News.
Turning to the financial crisis in Greece, the head of the European Commission made a last-minute offer today to try to persuade Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras to accept a bailout deal he already rejected, ahead of next Sunday's referendum, which European leaders say will be a choice of whether or not Greece remains in the euro. But sources in the Greek government say that the left-wing premier is standing fast in his rejection of the creditors' conditions and predict that Greece will default on a crucial repayment due to be paid to the International Monetary Fund, plunging Athens deeper into financial crisis. The EU has already offered to convene an emergency meeting of Eurozone finance ministers to approve an aid payment to prevent the default, but only if Tsipras signs a written acceptance of the terms. The last-ditch bid from Brussels came as tens of thousands of Greeks mobilized in support of the Prime Minister and against further austerity. A video emerged of yesterday's bombing in Cairo that killed Egypt's top public prosecutor. The convoy of 64-year-old Hisham Barakat was targeted by Islamic militants only days after calls by jihadists to attack judges as a priority for the Islamist insurgency. Barakat was the highest-ranking state official to be killed by terrorists since President al-Sisi's ousting of Islamist President Mohamed Morsi in mid-2013. The bombing left cars ablaze and storefronts damaged. Judges and other senior officials are being targeted by Islamists who oppose al-Sisi and are enraged by the hefty prison sentences imposed on members of the outlawed Muslim Brotherhood. Back here at home, school's out for the summer. Some 1.5 million elementary students today happily put down their pencils, or rather their laptops, and bid farewell to their teachers, ushering in the official end of the school year. The happy campers join their high school peers for the 2-month-long summer vacation. For the second year in a row, the Education Ministry is offering special low-cost camps for first and second graders at schools across the country. Some 200,000 children have already enrolled in the program. For those parents who are already freaking out, school is scheduled to resume on the 1st of September. The first ever Tel Aviv Blues Festival is kicking off this coming Friday, July 3rd. Spread over 4 days and featuring some 40 concerts in 20 clubs, this event promises to be something very exciting. A special guest from the United States, 83-year-old Leo Bud Welch, will be here from Mississippi and will be performing at the Barbie Club at the closing show of the festival. Artists from Israel and abroad are on the bill, with more than half of the concerts free of charge. That's the Tel Aviv Blues Festival from Friday through Monday. In In local money matters, the shekel was up in foreign currency trading, while shares were mixed on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. Here are the late afternoon numbers. Looking at the weather forecast, and a slight rise in temperatures is predicted tomorrow. Here are the highs and lows for the next 24 hours at home and abroad. And that's all for this newscast. Aaron Viner will be here tomorrow with more news from Israel and abroad. Until then, I'm Laura Cornfield, wishing you a great evening and shalom from Jerusalem.